Alex looks incredible at the 2026 World Sports Awards. This night was packed with world-class athletes, but Alex definitely stole the spotlight with her stunning dress, representing the Philippines. Just wow. There is a specific moment at every major award show where the entire room just stops. Not for a speech or a winner, not for a rehearsed pause, but because someone walks through the doors that nobody was prepared for. That is exactly what happened at the 2026 World Sports Awards. The person who stopped the room wasn't a racing star or an Olympic medalist. It was a 20-year-old from Manila in an ivory gown, walking that red carpet like she had been doing it her whole life. Her name is Alex. If you do not know her story, listen close, because it is one of the most extraordinary journeys in sports today. The cameras caught it first, the way they always do when something real starts happening. Every lens in the room swung toward her instantly. Even the veteran fashion editors were left stunned. Experts who have seen thousands of red carpet looks were filing stories before the ceremony even kicked off. Filipino fans were flooding the internet in such massive numbers that they crashed notification systems everywhere. By the time the gala finally ended, 4 words from the designer of that stunning ivory gown sent the entire fashion world into a spiral nobody predicted. Sold out. Completely gone within hours. If you think this is just a story about a dress, you are already missing the point. Stay with me, because what happens next is the part that truly matters in this journey. To understand why that night felt so significant, you have to go back. Way back. You need to understand who Alex is, where she started, and the price she paid to stand in that room tonight. She was born in Manila in May 2005. The Philippines love sports with a passion that few countries can ever match. But they love basketball, boxing, and weightlifting. Tennis was never a serious part of the national sports conversation there. A world-class tennis pro coming from those islands was not on anyone's radar. The global establishment was not even looking for it. Honestly, they were not exactly open to it when it finally arrived. But it definitely arrived. By the time Alex was 13, she was already training at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain. You do not get in there on charm or potential or by someone pulling favors. That academy is among the most selective programs in professional tennis. You earn a spot through hard results and a relentless work ethic that most young athletes, even gifted ones, cannot maintain at that age. She maintained it. She began winning junior titles and the victories piled up. Then, in 2022, at age 17, she entered the US Open girls singles draw and walked out a champion, claiming one of the 4 Grand Slams. Winning on New York hard courts is the ultimate test of speed and physical power, and she did it while she was still just a teenager. The entire country erupted. Social media traffic around her name shattered every record for Filipino sports coverage in history. She was no longer just an athlete. She was real proof. Proof that a young woman from Southeast Asia could enter the most competitive arena on earth and win a title that truly matters. For decades, her home country watched its athletes fight hard and fall just short on the world stage. But Alex was different. She did not just come close. She won, went pro, and then the doubt set in. This is the part the tennis establishment would rather not talk about too much. The jump from a top junior to a credible professional breaks most people. It has crushed players who looked even more ready than Alex did. The main tour is a completely different world. Every person across the net from you is elite. Many have been playing at that level longer than you have even been alive. The margins in pro tennis are invisible to most, but they are everything to those on the court. And Alex struggled. She was honest about the grind, which took a quiet kind of courage. For a while, her ranking moved in the wrong direction. Early round losses piled up, and the critics started talking. Pundits who mistake setbacks for permanent failure began claiming that she had already peaked. Some even suggested her junior success was an illusion, that the hype was built on a foundation that could not hold the weight of the pros. She kept working. She did not respond to the noise. She just kept grinding, and slowly, all at once, the results shifted. By 2024, she was pushing the top 20 players to 3 tough sets. Her serve, the most lethal part of her game, was clocking speeds that made her one of the hardest hitters on tour. Her movement and her decision-making under pressure, the very things doubters questioned, became sharper every single time she took the court. Then, 2025 arrived, and her trajectory was undeniable. She started racking up wins against players ranked inside the top 30. Her ranking climbed into a territory that put her firmly in the middle of the conversation, not just on the sidelines. The tennis world finally adjusted its tone. Not quickly or generously, but they respected the grind she put in every day. Through the losses and the harsh commentary, the Filipino fans never wavered. They stayed right there, and that is what truly matters. I don't think the sports world truly gets it. Filipino fans are everywhere. They show up, they travel, they ignore biology, staying awake at insane hours to catch every match live on European time. They bring energy and identity to tournaments that have historically been very quiet and predictable. It is usually very European and homogeneous. But when Alex plays, that Philippine flag is everywhere. You see it in the stands and in comment sections at 2 in the morning Manila time. That bond with a fan base that believed before the wins came is the foundation for everything that happened at the Laureus Awards. Speaking of which, the Laureus World Sports Awards have been around since the year 2000. They are the Oscars of sport. The 2026 edition featured champions from Formula One and football. It was one of the most decorated gatherings on the planet. Alex was there as a rising star, not as a nominee, but as a key figure in the sports world that the event attracts annually. She arrived in an ivory gown crafted by a premier Filipino fashion house. I want to be clear, because this matters. That was not a decision made by some stylist. It wasn't a brand partnership or a calculated move by a team of image managers. That was Alex making a personal choice to represent her country's designers on a global stage. The ivory gown was floor-length and structured at the shoulders, giving it a warmth that looked absolutely stunning on camera. It moved with a quiet, architectural confidence that photographers and cameras instinctively picked up on. On a red carpet of predictable luxury and sponsorship deals, it stood out completely. It was singular. Wire service photos were out before the ceremony even started. Fashion editors in Paris, Milan, and New York were tagging the images within minutes. Accounts with millions of followers were posting while Alex was still finding her seat inside. The word being used over and over wasn't just nice or elegant or impressive. It was stunning, not in the casual social media sense, but in the original sense. It was something that stops your scroll and forces you to look closer within the tennis community. Specifically, the reaction had an extra dimension. Tennis has always had its style icons. Serena Williams redefined power on the court. Federer made Wimbledon whites feel like high fashion through sheer presence. But none of those moments came from a Filipino athlete. None produced that specific mix of credibility and fashion authority Alex showed at 20 years old. Demand for the gown started as small searches and became a flood within 4 hours. People crashed the designer's website. The infrastructure simply was not designed to handle that volume. Orders were stacking up. The brand's social media team was drowning in questions about shipping and sizing. By the time the ceremony was ending, the inventory situation had already gone critical. Then the statement came. Brief and direct. The gown was completely sold out. Every size was gone. The waiting list filled that same night. Trade publications ran detailed pieces within 48 hours with a very specific, considered focus. This was more than a viral moment. It was evidence of demand following athletes in crossover cultural spaces. The argument was that Alex hadn't been placed in that gown by some strategy. She chose it herself, and the market responded to that authenticity. People can feel the difference from a calculated celebrity placement. That distinction between a choice and a placement is where this story gets really interesting if you look closer. For most of the 20th century, an athlete becoming a cultural force required a lot of time. It took years of dominance followed by careful, slow brand construction. The process was slow by design because the traditional channels for cultural authority moved at a very different pace. What Alex did at the Laureus Awards compressed an entire career into a single evening. Some of that is technology. Social media has collapsed the timelines that used to take decades to cross. But it wasn't just an algorithm. It was a massive Filipino fanbase watching a young woman from Manila standing in the most glamorous room in sport. She earned the right to be there through years of grinding on courts across 3 continents. The achievement, the identity, the statement. All 3 things landed at once, making the moment bigger than any individual piece. Here is the thing about that night, the thing that says everything about who Alex is. It actually said more than any interview she's ever given. No speeches about representation. No scripted. Pose for photos clutching a flag or issue grand statements about why her presence even mattered. She just showed up in her own skin, wearing exactly what she chose, letting her actions do the talking. Fans had watched her navigate years of doubt and dismissal without her ever once airing a single grievance. She never made her struggle a public performance. That kind of restraint hit harder than any statement could. It was consistent. It was her. The weeks following the Laureus Awards proved the story had moved well beyond a single viral moment. Global fashion media started covering Alex as a serious subject in her own right, not just some tennis player who looked good in a photo, but as a figure whose style choices carried real cultural weight. Suddenly, requests flooded in from major publications. Outlets that never touched sports were calling. That Filipino fashion house got inquiries from massive retailers across Europe and Asia. Real commercial interest, not just internet noise. Through the chaos, Alex went back to work. She's a tennis player first. The Pro Tour doesn't stop for fashion trends or cultural milestones. Ranking points are earned on the court. She's too focused to let outside noise distract her from the real work that moves her career forward. But something changed forever that night. Now, every match result she earns lands in a context far bigger than just the game of tennis. Every single appearance carries a weight that didn't exist before that ivory gown hit the red carpet. Tennis gained something in her that it didn't fully grasp yet. The sport was finally getting a player whose influence reaches into cultural spaces that tennis has traditionally found almost impossible to enter. And that influence didn't spring from some PR strategy or a corporate partnership or a managed rollout. It came from a 20-year-old from Manila who made her own choices deliberately. She trusted that being her authentic self was more than enough. The room stopped. Cameras followed. The fashion world was stunned into a sellout. None of it was an accident. The girl who was supposed to be a mere curiosity, a junior champion expected to plateau and fade away quietly, walked into the 2026 Laureus Awards and just detonated. Not with loud announcements or declarations or any kind of manufactured drama, just with pure presence and a white gown from home. That is who Alex is. If this is the first time you are hearing her story properly, you have arrived at the perfect time. Because looking at everything right now, that night wasn't the peak. It was just the opening act.